Good afternoon to all. We'll be spending about 2 hours on this topic. Basically, how we have to look at water in rainfed areas. This looks somewhat strange, no, but there is a lot of work, almost 10 years, 15 years of work behind that. Several organizations across India in the RR network, a lot of deliberations happened. So, if you see the dominant perspective, मैंने जब से इंडिपेंडेंस हुआ उस समय से water is seen as irrigation. If you see all the document on water resources, mostly all the investments on water resources, it's all about irrigation. So that we have an irrigation department earlier. So the irrigation department and the entire budget is allocated for irrigation. That started with initially it's dams and canals, then also the tanks, revival of tanks and all that. Then when surface water has becoming a problem and the groundwater is picking up, bore wells, from wells to bore wells, groundwater has receded. Then there were no systemic investments on groundwater except monitoring. There is no investment on it, but there is a lot of investments on recharge of groundwater. This is all the surface water and groundwater related investments. Then you have micro irrigation. So water use efficiency micro irrigation. If you look at this is the recent table on budget allocation. If you look at all the budget items, if you look at where this money will go, so this money, none of this actually goes to any farmer who doesn't have access to water. So at the most, if investment goes, it goes as recharge. That recharge water goes to a farmer who has a well, who has a irrigation this thing. So in the entire perspective of water, seeing it as an irrigation, then the whole rain-fed farming is out of the picture, as if rain-fed farming doesn't need water. So this is the problem that we are contesting, right? So the exclusion is not very minor. So around 40-50% of the area or 60% of the farmers are in this category, which is substantial. And these are the areas where you have all the crises, up climate crisis, droughts, livelihoods, crop losses, farmers distress, groundwater depletion. Most of these problems are actually in this area where hardly there is investment going into it. Dr. Rad will actually elaborate from the government perspective later. He has analyzed this investment structure over a period and how it discriminates it. So this is one issue, the primary issue. Then if you look at here, there is about 9,339 crores allocated for PMKSY, Prime Minister Krishi Sinchai Yojana. At some point, maybe some 5-10 years back, the entire watershed program is now was actually transferred to PMKSY. Once it is transferred to PMKSY, what happened? You see the PMKSY investment, the accelerated irrigation benefit scheme, which is basically irrigation dams and micro irrigation, major minor irrigation, all that. That actually guzzled up all the investment. So the graph on the right is the watershed investments. So from 13 to 14, if you extend that to 24, there's hardly 1,000 crore or 1,500 crores allocated for watershed program. Watershed program is a very small program in the entire thing. That is also now not there. And then if you look at the per hectare investments, if you the yellow line is the disparity. If you want to build a dam for irrigation and all that, उसमें आपको 5 लाख रुपया हेक्टेयर में लगाने के लिए भी कोई बैकअप नहीं करता है. But if you look at the watershed investment, वो 18,000 per hectare. उसमें livelihoods भी है, institutions भी है, sustainability है, capacity building है, सब चीज़ है. So that kind of a thing. And then now if you look at the trend graphs, so groundwater, which is in the red color, has surpassed the groundwater irrigation has surpassed the surface irrigation. Now groundwater is the major source of irrigation in India. Where that groundwater is coming, it's coming from the catchments. Where the surface water is coming from the catchments. So all the catchments were left dry. And then the extraction actually is moving towards that. But investments on groundwater except for extraction is zero. Water use efficiency and extraction, these are the only investments, and then discharge probably are the investments that are going into it. So what is the exclusion? This is the area, and the first one is broadly the rainfed areas. So you can see the extent of area. No need to have numbers. That visual picture itself shows you have larger extent. The blue areas are where irrigation is more than 40% or so. But within that blue districts also there is a lot of rainfed areas, because all the data is district based. It actually negates identification of the rainfed areas within that. So you can actually see where that 90,000 crores money, if you remove the drinking water, where that money is going, into small pockets which are primarily green devolution pockets. So, but why do we need water? Why do you need water in the rainfed areas? Now, for a rainfed farmer, what is meant by irrigation? What is meant by water? What is the perspective? If you look at that, so this is the cumulative rainfall graphs. For some area, over a period of some 30-40 years. So here, if you see the flat curves, the flat portions on the curve, they are the drought spells. So there are, if you see the initial the onset of the monsoon, there's so much of variability in the onset, and so much of variability immediately after the onset. This is all the sowing window. So a lot of fluctuations in the sowing window. This is the mid-season. This is a terminal thing. So there are droughts at different periods of the crop season. So what is water for the rainfed farmer is that मुझे एक irrigation मिले ताकि crop बच जाए. No, I need just some 1 or 2 irrigations so that I can survive. 50% of the farmers are actually looking for that. But उनके लिए वो पानी का जो demand है, that demand is never met by the irrigation. Irrigation is actually, the metric of irrigation is how much of irrigation area you have created. Irrigation potential is created, which means you can actually grow crops without depending on rainfall. That is by and large the way irrigation is seen. So, but all these crops are with rainfall, but they need a small amount of water to sustain the crops, on which their livelihood depends, their crops depend, their जानवर का जो चारा है वो भी इसको ऊपर निर्भर होता है, अनाज घर पे वो भी निर्भर होता है, उस पानी उसको नहीं मिलता है. So ये वाला जो contradiction है, ये contradiction अपने आप से नहीं आया. ये contradiction पूरा हमारा देश में जो पानी का नज़रिया है, किस नज़र से पानी को देखते हैं, वहीं से शुरू हुआ. पानी को अगर फ्लोइंग वाटर इरिगेशन देखोगे तो ये सब चीज़ आपका फ्रेमवर्क में कैनवस में नहीं आता है. सो देन व्हाट इज हैपनिंग नाउ, दिस इज रीसेंट फोटो, मे बी 3 months बैक फोटो इन अनंतपुर. व्हेन वी गो टू विलेजेस, द hundreds and hundreds of acres of rain-fed lands are abandoned. People just left doing cultivation there because it's no longer viable. So if you have water, then you have all the subsidy. You have electricity subsidy, you have the rice procurement price, you have fertilizer subsidy, you have everything is available. If you are outside the irrigation thing, just imagine, आपको कुछ भी नहीं मिलेगा. You don't get electricity subsidy, you cannot use much of fertilizers anyway, and no research on the crops that we're doing in rain-fed areas. So पूरा system से बाहर है. वो बाहर का जो उसके साथ साथ जो क्लाइमेट का जो अनसर्टेनिटीज है, so that actually is making entire rain-fed area unviable for the farmers. So increasingly the fallowization is increasing. So can't we think of what should be the water perspective in the macro policy for these areas? That is what we are trying to look at. Say for example, this very strange thing. This really happened in Andhra Pradesh at some 10 years back, when there was a serious drought. Then the entire state mobilized what is called the protective irrigation. हमको फसल को बचाएंगे. So जो मिला, टैंकर मिला, जो मिला, जाके पानी लेके दिया है. So ये भी पानी है, ये भी irrigation है, right? So there are some organizations which are doing this. This is to avoid the onset uncertainties. They're actually supplementing water from somewhere and then taking the crop there. So that your onset drought spells are managed. So this is while the crop is on the field, and this is not in 1 or 2 acres. This is about covering. They're giving 10,000 liters per acre, 200 hectares, and then total 40. Yeah, okay. So during the crop season, mid-season droughts, there is also this possibility. So what I'm saying is, if you remove the mind of irrigation from a canal, from a flowing water, then you have lot of options to save the crops that are on the uplands and the rain-fed lands. So, and also the water bodies and all that. No, so this is something, a framework that developed by IMI at some point. So if you want to look at a different way, हमारा irrigation dams, canals ये नहीं है, but हमारा irrigation का policy क्या है, क्या होना चाहिए, वो करेगा तो then this is the policy. If you take a landscape, what they are saying, from purely rain fed to purely irrigated होगा इस पूरा canvas में, then the first part is how you actually manage water in the, how you manage rainfall in the soil profile. It should start with that. Once you manage water in the soil profile, then how do you manage the gaps in the rainfall events? That is supplemental irrigation. That's where your water bodies, groundwater. If the longer dry spell, then the groundwater will come. So you need to have a framework of how you look at water in a particular location. It's all location specific. So the policy framework is very much there, and there is enough research that is showing one single life-saving irrigation increases yield by about 20%. So that data is also there. There are a number of research saying technology is proven. There is no issue of technology and all that. But even if you look at of all the things, the micro irrigation in the name of water use efficiency is only for the bore wells. You actually rainfall hoga, then you allow the rainfall to percolate 300 feet, and then take a pump and then draw it up, and then irrigate with electricity subsidy, and you put one sprinkler and you call it water use efficiency. Suppose if that rainfall is actually harvested in the soil profile, which actually provides 1 or 2 irrigations. Irrigation is what? Soil moisture deficits. If the rainfall can fill the soil moisture deficits for extended period, that itself is irrigation. That is never called water use efficiency in the entire literature. Water use efficiency is micro irrigation. How we equate. Micro irrigation is government subsidy for micro irrigation, industry will supply and all that. Soil में moisture बढ़ाना है तो then industry नहीं है. इसमें तो आपको soil organic matter बढ़ाना है, crop system बदलना है. Crop system और water का relationship is never seen as an ambit of water resource management. It's seen as agriculture department का है. So all the irrigation, everything is in the irrigation department. All this should put इनका समझ में जो है, जो soil का, crop का, ये सब चीज़, and watershed also is not done by irrigation department. Investments come from the agriculture and rural development. It's seen as a succor. It's seen as a relief to the farmers to give to work on these things because their employment deficits are been. It's never seen as you are actually improving the productivity. But the rain-fed areas now stands very tall because all the traditional canal belts have stagnated. The growth potential of the irrigation belt, traditional green irrigation belt, is very low. The growth potential of the rain-fed areas is the one which will be the future for the country. But if you want to harness that growth potential, where along with that लोगों का livelihoods भी बढ़ेगा, crop security आएगा, climate risk कम होगा, these are all co-benefits of looking at it. उसके लिए कुछ काम नहीं है. उसके लिए, if you invest on that, now the agriculture growth also will be high. Farmer food security will be, national food security, nutritional security will be high. All the millets, pulses, everything comes from these areas. So what we are proposing is that can we actually think about a water perspective for rain-fed areas distinct from the irrigation mindset. If you actually say that irrigation department will have 2 departments, one look at rain-fed areas, one look at the rest of it. Irrigation budgets भी अगर आधा करें because it is a half of the area, and then half of the investment should go into these areas. So there is no point actually putting everything into one basket. So अगर करेगा तो उसका कंटूर्स क्या होगा. आज का चर्चा ये है कि अभी 4 स्पीकर्स जो अनिकेत ने इंट्रोड्यूस किया, बाद में जो बात करेंगे. So the idea is, from these experiences, these discussions, can we actually come out with some kind of framework, a framework where you take a landscape approach, not the irrigated area per hectare irrigation potential, but a landscape where you make the landscape secure by harnessing the rainfall in that landscape, in the soil profile, retain it for longer period through good crop systems, good soil husbandry, good land husbandry, and then make the landscape secure from the climate risks, and then can we actually move our technology, our crop systems and all that, look at water as integral of technology plus crop systems plus water harvesting, all these things, can we move towards that kind of a framework? So the whole discourse is about that. So I'll stop here.